Good morning, everybody. Happy Monday to everybody. I hope you all had a terrific weekend. And before we get too far ahead this is for information and educational purposes only. If you have any personal finance questions, feel free to reach out to us. And this first, I'm going to take a look at share our screen. We'll look at the annuity sample. As we've shown, if in an annuity, you never lose money. And when the annuity steps up in value, it does not come down, whereas indexes do bob up and down and can lose money. Over time, annuity average annual growth is about 5% better than indexes average annual growth. How do they do this? They do this by giving you a big bonus when you open up your account. Could be from 20% to 40%. And then they average maybe 6 to 9% on that money. And so that's how they beat the indexes by about 5%. Recommend that most 90% of people have this type of an investment, or index universal life also does not lose money. If you have any questions, feel free to get in contact with me or us. And that's a look at that. Let's take a look at the S&P 500 heat map, or chill map, as we say today. Market was up earlier. It is down right now. Amazon looks like the only tech that is up significantly. Tesla is remaining stable. Google up slightly. Facebook Meta still remains pretty strong and durable. Apple is up slightly. The energy component is up today, and everything else is kind of a mixed bag. Some healthcare is up in this corner. So that's a look at the S&P 500 map. Now let's go to bringing up our screen. Before we get to the news, I'm going to take a look at, this is Tidewater, just kind of up a little. I believe that was last week. Yeah, it's up 1.14 today. So let's take a look at the dollar index. Wow, look at that. The dollar gaps up, and that's what is keeping our multinational stocks in check. With a high dollar, it reduces the amount of money or profit they can make overseas. So that is pretty amazing. Let's look at gold. Gold is down. And when the dollar is strong, gold is generally weak. And it's pulled back here, try to come back, and then pulled back again, and try it again, and it's pulled back again. Let's take a look at silver. Silver is selling off with a strength in the dollar as well. Take a look at a few of our copper. Arrow copper is trying to hit bottom. Southern copper may have hit bottom. We'll just have to see. Tries to bounce back. And Freeport McMoran has come off quite a bit. Big gap down last week. It's trying to bounce back here today. Let's look at our bond yields. So we had a little pullback. Looked like they were going to try to fill this gap. They didn't quite fill it, but it is bouncing again today. Up big. This is going to keep stocks down. Anything over 4.09, and right now it is 4.54. Went over 4.50, and that is going to keep a lid on any positive movement in the stocks, I would think. And the 20-year yield is gapping up big time as well. Gapped up to 3.85%. Went up over 4.5% today. So with that, we could take a look at our indexes. Let's take a look at the volatility index. Got a big move up and is pulled back to its lower quadrant right now, but it's trying to bounce. One of my favorite technicians, AJ Monty, thought we'd have a bounce this week, and it doesn't look like it's going to happen on Monday. Take a look at the S&P 500. As we saw from the chill map, it's up 0.17%, and it's lucky to be up that. So it is significantly down. We'll just see if it's going to roll over with these high bond yields and strengthen the dollar or not. And this is equal weighted. We're taking out the heavy lifting. Looks very similar to the regular S&P 500. The NASDAQ, amazing. It's up 0.16% with the yield ever so high. Dow Jones, pretty flat. And finally, our small cap index looks very similar to the SPY, S&P 500, and the NASDAQ. So without further ado, let's go to our news. Canadian auto workers ratified a new labor agreement with Ford on Sunday, averting a threatened strike, and Ford is up a little over 1% today. China EV maker NIO said to consider raising $3 billion from investors, says Bloomberg. And it's down a little over 2% on that news. Nike, Foot Locker, and Urban Outfitters were each downgraded. Nike's stock is off 0.42%. Foot Locker is down, but has recovered most of its losses today. It's only down 0.42%. And Urban was down dramatically earlier, and now it's only down 0.5%, half a percent. Target unveiled plans for Target Circle Week event October 1st through the 7th, exclusively for members of the Target Circle. It's free to join loyalty program. And if I can type it right, Target is still down almost 1% today. Dow upgraded to overweight from neutral at JP Morgan. It's a little bounce after trending downward, up nearly 2%. And from the chart, you can barely see it. Sealed Air upgraded to buy at neutral at Citibank, and it's up nearly 4%. And of course, we can't See that? Let's go to the minute chart. There we can see it gapping up over here. See the Dow gapped up slightly and is traded flat the rest of the day. And Plains All American downgraded to underweight. And that gap down at the open, tried to come back and basically trended down the rest of the day. Let's go to financials. M&T Bank files automatic mixed security shelf. And I guess investors kind of like that as it bounces up. Chinese property sector woes continued with Evergrande liquidation. Risk rises after creditors scrapped debt restructuring meeting scheduled this week. The SEC has collected thousands of staff's private messages from more than a dozen major investment companies, escalating as probe into Wall Street's use of private messaging apps, Reuters reports. On to healthcare. IMAB said late Friday that AbbVie, not much, it's actually up 5.42%. AbbVie has terminated a 2020 deal to co-develop and market IMAB's lead cancer drug candidate, lemzoparlimab. So let's look at AbbVie. AbbVie is actually pretty strong as well. I guess they reacted well to the news. Medical technology company Innovus said it has reached an agreement to acquire Lima Corporate SPA, a privately held orthopedic company, for 700 million euros. And everybody cheered that news. And it's up big time, up nearly 4%. Novo Nordisk, NVO, and Eli Lilly are expected to make tens of billions of dollars a year on their new obesity drugs, Barron's reported. Novo didn't get any bounce from that. And Eli Lilly, pretty flat as well. Rite Aid is negotiating with creditors over terms of a bankruptcy plan that would include liquidating a substantial portion of more than 2,100 drugstores. And it's off close to 30% for the day. I guess you can see that better over here. Huge gap down and continued rolling over the rest of the day. Finally, on to technology, media, and telecom. James Dolan, the chairman of Madison Square Garden Sports, said he has no plans to sell the New York Knicks and Rangers. There's absolutely no thought of a full sale of the teams, Dolan told Barron's in an interview. And MSG, pretty flat, down 0.74%, almost down 1% today, but the volume is pretty low. Meta, to push for younger users with new AI chatbot characters. Wall Street Journal reported Facebook parent is developing bots with personalities, including SAS Master General, robot that answers questions, according to the Wall Street Journal. And Meta is still hanging around the 300. It's not going down, as we pointed out, similar to the other big techs, Google, Amazon, Netflix, Microsoft, Apple. So we'll continue to watch this. Is working on a cup with a handle. We'll see if we get some volume. We got some volume Not much of a price move on Friday. We'll just have to keep your eyes on it. Warner Brothers, Paramount Global edged higher in pre-market, but Warner Brothers sold off pretty strong. Paramount Global sold off and tried to come back. And Netflix got a little bounce here, up a little over 1%. Amazon will invest as much as $4 billion in Anthropic in efforts to become a major player in generative artificial intelligence. They got a little bounce on that news today, up about 1.5%. And finally, Microsoft upgraded to neutral from sell at Guggenheim, and it got no play on that. So that's our look at the news. And so let's take a look. It's trending today. Looked at some things that were trending down, people running for the hills. Ocean engineering is up. Pretty good volume. People keep buying this. I think this is one of the few stocks that I currently have in my portfolio. Sold most everything else and moved to a Schwab bond portfolio. Williams Sonoma up massively today. Looks like it's up over 11%. Huge buying in here. You had a lot of buying over here and here. Even though the selling days, the buying certainly has outpaced the selling here. And then the selling has been pretty low, which you'd like to see if you want your stock to advance over here. And that's it on where professional money managers are moving their money. Let's see if I can bring up where they're moving some other items where they're moving their money out of. First, let's take a look at Tesla. Working on a cup with a handle. I believe if it gets above 278.49 with good volume would be a breakout in Tesla. And let's look at FedEx is getting working on the right side of its base here, kind of a weird shape of a flat base or a base on base. Actually, this was a base on base over here. This is a flat base. It's 38 days. The pivot price is $270.95. Their earnings were up 32%. And now back to where the selling was today. Morphic Holding, oral integrated drugs for patient of autoimmunity. off of 40% today. 2 big days in a row down. It was $62 and now it's $22. Looks like it's lost close to 75% of its value. Maybe this is a good reason to have an annuity so you can rest well at night. This is Maris, Netherlands-based developer of biospecific antibody, down 7.35%. Guess the money managers are moving out of this as 320% increase in volume. A-Mark Precious Metals trading. Maybe metals trading isn't the place to be with the dollar being so strong. As you can see, the trend is not your friend. It's really going down numerous days. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. 11 out of 14 days of heavy selling. Not someplace you'd like to be. British American Tobacco of 3.35%. Interestingly, auto is dropping in heavy volume, maybe because they're thinking of issuing more shares. Down nearly 10%. More shares to get more money to finance your operations. On, the Swiss shoemaker gapping down, huge volume after its earnings. Came in a negative 70%. People thinking that with high inflation, people will have less money available to buy these expensive shoes. As comfortable as they may be. We have a number of selling days here. We had a couple of blue bars here, but it could never get it above the gap down. So once something falls this under the 50-day moving average, probably should be sold, as things only can get worse. So that's a look at some of our winners and losers. Now let's take a look at some issues that we had been focusing on. Kava got some buying interest today. It had a breakout on its IPO base, which is 16 to 25 days. And we had it on the show when it was around 41, 42. Said it probably is going to break out. Might be a good case to buy. And then went up to 58. When it came back to 52, recommended anybody who bought sell, because IPO bases generally fail. And sure enough, that's what happened. The investors' due diligence is taking place now, and we'll just have to wait and see if it can come back up and build the right side of the base and get some buying support over here. Let's take a look at BLTE. Went up after we profiled them on the show. Said they were in a tight range right here. And that this was going to resolve itself one way or the other, either up or down. And a little later, it broke out right over here. And it went up 50%. It's pulled back, but it continues to get investor support, which is positive. And we'll just have to see if it's able to break out of this consolidation. GLSI was the other one we profiled with BLTE. He said it was going to resolve itself one way or the other. We couldn't confirm or deny. So it resolved itself down. I wouldn't even look at this until I got above this channel. They're predicting it is going to go to 38 this year, but a lot of predictions prove wrong. And you have to prove it with price and volume. Right now, there's heavy selling in this. So this is not a good time to buy. Let's look at Zoom. We had looked at Zoom a while back. Looks like it's working on a cup pattern. Pretty long handle here. Take a look at the weekly earnings up 28%. We'll just have to kind of wait and see. Roku, the other one we were looking at with Zoom, continues to sell off due to the high multiple range, with sells off because of the high yield and bonds. People rather get a guaranteed 5+% than a negative whatever percent this is going down. But I definitely keep it on the watch list once the Fed decides to stop raising interest rates. It may be a candidate. Take a look at Meta. Once again, we've got this really strong pattern. It sells off at any rate, and investors are there to buy more shares. So any issue that doesn't want to go down when we're having a sell-off always catches our eye. Because if you take a look at Google, look at this big drop. Big sell-off here and down here again. Amazon. Did the same thing. Gap down here, sell off here, another gap down. Not a positive sign for investors. Netflix in a downtrend. Looks like working on a double bottom, tried to come up, cleared it, and then failed. Only benefit here is that lately it's had low volume on the selling. Microsoft is kind of a laggard compared to Facebook as well. Continues to sell off. Although Microsoft did put most of its money into automated intelligence. So take a look at NVIDIA. Later in semiconductor stocks, went up to 502 and has just been selling off. Went down to 407 and now it's trying to get back up to 420. Kind of weird type of base. Didn't really have a good consolidation over here, so it failed. And see if there's I'm not sure if we looked at Apple. Apple as well. kind of loose trading here. Needs to tighten up. And that's our look at what things are trending. I'll have a different educational topic for you tomorrow. And we're glad. Hope everybody had a great weekend. It was a busy weekend here in San Francisco. And we just hope you set out your goals and your activities and keep working on them. If you have any questions about your financial goals, feel free to reach out to us. And in the meantime, have a great week. This has been Mornings with Michael for information and educational purposes only.